Okay, welcome to day 115 of trying to become a SOC analyst. We're on LetsDefend, still working through the incident responder path. So we've got a couple of alerts we can go through. And today we've got suspicious Base64 encoding/decoding commands detected, SOC302. So let's jump into it. Okay, we can see we've got the alert assigned to us here. The type is mentioned brute force. And the endpoint is hostname Clark with the 172 internal address. Okay, the command that has alerted this alert is if uname equals FreeBSD, then command B64 encode -R, else command equals base64 bin. So that's the command that spawned the alert, and the trigger reason was to detect suspicious use of base64 encoding or decoding commands which could be used for data obfuscation. We have a level 1 note. Minutes before the alert, I saw brute force attempt from different usernames for the IP 89.187.185.184 towards the system. However, I could not determine whether the attack was successful or not. So let's get rid of this cam and jump into the alert. So that's yesterday's result. Just want to clean the tabs up a little bit, sorry. Keep things organized. Okay, so we've got log management here. So let's look at our endpoint as well. It was Clark. Just get everything fired up. That's VM from yesterday. Speaking of VM, because it's an incident responder alert, we know we're going to need access to the endpoint. So let's spin up the VM. Takes a long time to load. And this is yesterday's the closed alert. Okay, so go to investigation channel. Okay, sorry, a bit slow. So here we go. All right, and we'll keep our alert open here as well, because what we'll do is we'll have the playbook open here, and then we can grab our IPs commands from here. So we've pasted our endpoint IPs everywhere. So let's grab this external IP. Can use abuse database just because it has a better history. While that's loading, go back to our alert. August 7, 24. So it's been flagged as malicious, but more importantly, timestamp wise, these are all recent, so we can sort of ignore them. We're pretending we're looking at this alert back in 2024, but looking at the amount of reports, it was definitely would have been malicious at the time of the alert. And brute force, DOS attack, bad web, brute force as well. So lots of flags for brute forcing. Okay, so let's go through the logs now. So we know there was a brute force attempt, and it looks like it was the SSH. User USOF. Okay. So it looks like it's targeted. No, it's not. There's a different user, so they are spraying. Diadec. So let's not pay analysts attention too much to the. Oh, hang on. This is accepted password for user analyst. So let's see if they also were attempting a bad password on analyst. User hitman. Okay, so failed password for analyst and failed password for analyst. So it looks like it's a bit of a combination of brute force and also spraying, because they're trying various different usernames as well as different passwords. So in terms of their attack chain, it looks like they've attempted a brute force against various usernames. They have successfully logged in with analyst. And just to make life a bit easier, I might just copy that into my notes. And we'd love a timestamp on that one too, so we're not going to get a timestamp. There we go. Okay, so we know that it was a brute force and a login. So now let's look through the rest of the logs. We've got some OS logs. Okay, so audit logs. Looks like recon saying OS release. Get intent password. What's this? Root documents, encode, and upload. Let's grab that URL. Okay, we don't have much details on what it is, but it is flagged as malicious, and it looks like potentially they're exfilling to that. Let's keep going through the logs. Curl. So that's, yeah, again, same URL. This is the firewall version of those connections. What have we got? Firewall, and we've got some DNS entries, so they're going to be the domains that were resolved. We can't see them. And finally, DNS. Okay, so that's it. So swap to the endpoint. 61 pages of processes. Let's see if we can look at something different, like the terminal. Okay, well, terminal history straight away screams that there's been recon. Who am I? Netstat tunnel. So seeing if there's anything running locally, like local ports open, host name, what OS it's running, what groups there are. In documents, does it look like they've just done a test writing an empty file? Then they've opened up the empty file, and then they've tested if they can read the empty file. Oh, actually, did I say they opened it up? So yeah, VI. So they've edited something in the file. Sorry. Then they've tested that they can read whatever they put in there. And now we've got the command for the encode, and then they've checked the test again. Else if command base. Okay. So they're piping whatever's in the test file through to Base64. Okay. And then they've exfilled it to this malicious website. And then they've checked the history. Okay. So let's jump into the playbook. I think we have a fairly good understanding of their attack chain there. If our endpoint has spawned already, it has, we could also check. I know we should just start the playbook, but sometimes I just like to do hands-on, go my own route. So we knew they got to documents and they found something in there. So it was test. Oh, okay, so it was etc. password. Okay. And then this will be their encoded blob. Okay. Now, I wonder if we have Oh, we don't have CyberChef on these machines. Okay. I mean, we saw the chain anyway. It was encoded into this blob, and then this blob was exported out. It would be nice to decode that with. We could do it with Python. I don't know the command though. We'll have to ask AI, I think. Yeah, let's do that. I don't want to waste people's time too much, but it would be or maybe what I'll do is I'll pause the video. Hang on, that would be a better option. Hang on. All right, sorry, I paused the video. I'm a bit silly. I was thinking that I couldn't copy and paste it into anywhere, but realistically, all I need to do is what we normally do with smaller strings. I think it was just the size of the string that confused me, but my command history should show. If you just cat it into Base64 /d for the decode, that gives us the output. So it is exactly what we thought. It's just the /etc password file encoded, and vice versa. It would have been, you could cat etc password, and then what would we want to do? Pipe it to Base64, and then like pipe it into a file, like the test, something like that. But I guess the way they've done it is, where's our logs? They've done it in this command so that when they run it like that, it doesn't look so suspicious. So trying to obfuscate that they're doing Base64. So, okay, that now makes sense to me. Let's start the playbook. It's a bit. Oh, sorry. What did I press? Go back to our investigation channel. Great case. Okay. Oh, is it I think it's logged me out, has it? No? What is going on here? We're logged in. We've got our investigation channel. Create case. Okay. So brute force, start playbook, verify the alert details, review the activity. We've done that. Review alert details in the investigation channel. We've looked at the firewall logs. We've looked at the audit logs. No sysmon. Behavioral analysis. Typical defensive evasion behaviors across systems by establishing baseline. So we saw obfuscation. Identify potential defensive evasion activity on the processes or network. Suspicious defensive evasion techniques. So again, the same thing. We saw the evasion of trying to obfuscate the command. We also saw the file was changed from password to, what did they get changed to? Something normal looking, encoded.dat. Actually, you'd think they could have came up with a better name than that. And the user was analyst. Do we have a bash history, or did they clear it? I can't remember. So let's investigate their history. Who are my groups? Sudo. Okay. So obfuscation and obviously encoding as well. Determine the operating system. It's Linux. For Linux, look at the auth log. Well, we saw that with the brute force. the system log we saw in the log interface, log management, sorry. So determine the type of defensive evasion techniques involving obfuscation and concealment. Obfuscated files or information. That could be correct. Or deobfuscate / encode files or information. So, interesting between these two. Because we didn't see them decode, or deobfuscate, I should say, and decode. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm reading it incorrectly. So this is only when you're decoding the files or deobfuscating the files, and this one is when you're obfuscating, or we could assume encoding as well. Sorry, I just wasn't paying attention. IOC, we looked at the IP and the URL, and have you encountered any? Yes. And we looked at the reputation on abuse and virus total for the URL, so they were suspicious, both of them. One was flagged for brute force and URL was flagged as malicious. Define the scope. We want to check if we saw these IPs on any other endpoints. So this was the brute force. So we'll search for that. And our endpoint's the 4.3, 4.3, and 4.3. So no other attempts. So define scope. Should the device be isolated? Yes, because at the very least it needs a password change, and in LetsDefend that means containment. But also the fact that they exfilled etc. password, it's not the end of the world, but it does allow them to target what users have access on the box. So if we go back to their, was documents, right? Oh, sorry, it's bad typing. So if we look at etc. password and look at bash, we can see that root has a remote like a bash shell, Ubuntu, Analyst, Nova, and LetsDefend. So they could be users that you target with a future brute force or phishing, because most likely Analyst at or Nova at, things like that. It's giving you a lot of information, and they also have the recon from what they ran on the server. Just thinking if they got into here. So we've got the who am I, hostname, cat group, documents, touch. So they had root access, but they logged in as analyst. Did they have sudo? Okay, they had sudo access. Okay, so that's how they've prevesked. They've logged in with analyst and used sudo to get to root, and then in root we saw those commands. So it definitely needs to be isolated, which we've done. And containment, yeah, we've done that, like I said. What's our lesson? How did the cyber attack occur? How effectively staff? Okay, so that's all. Nothing. Add our artifacts. So in terms of IOCs, we have the malicious IP. We have the Exfil URL. Well, now in terms of what other options we have available, I mean, there's not much point putting the MD5 hash to the Exfil file or anything like that. We can put the rest in our notes if we need any more information, but for filling out this will do. Exfil URL, so happy with just the 2 artifacts there. Actually, I said that, but I changed my mind. I would also like to just add the endpoint in there as well. It's in the ticket, but we will put it there too. So I'm happy with that. Next, I'll pause the video and write some notes. Okay, so I've written up some notes for this one. We've mapped it to the MITRE attack techniques. We've got brute force, valid accounts, system owner / user discovery, obfuscated files or information, abuse elevation control mechanisms, sudo, and exfil over alternative protocol. Exfil over unencrypted non-C2 protocol. So the what? Attacker from 89.187.8185.184 brute forced SSH on Clark. 172 internal IP, successfully authenticated as analyst after multiple failed attempts, escalated to root via sudo su, ran user recon, get password, base64 encoded, etc. password to root documents encoded.dat, and attempted exfil via curl, post to, and we've got the HTTP malicious URL that we found, the application.ru. Upload no outbound firewall log confirming successful transfer, however stage file content confirmed as etc. password. When we've got the timestamp of the successful SSH login for analyst from the external IP. We've got the timestamp of the Base64 encode from the audit log, and we've got the the audit logs for the password get and the exfil via curl. The where, we've got the hostname Clark, the internal 172 IP, the external 89.187 malicious IP that the attacker logged in from. The exfil target is the malicious URL, and the stage file is root / document / encoded.dat. Okay, the who, external attacker from 89. Their abuse IP flagged for brute force, compromised account analyst, which is a sudo enabled account, escalated to root by sudo su. The why, attacker brute forced SSH credentials, leveraged analyst sudo access for privilege escalation, obfuscated etc. password via Base64 encoding, and attempted to post the encoded file to an external server, likely motivated by credential harvesting / etc. password reveals accounts with shell access for follow-on attacks. So they're my notes. Interestingly, with this case, it doesn't seem too realistic to exfil / etc. password when you have root access, because they had sudo for, we'll just log that. They had root access, so really there was not much need to exfil etc. password. And if you were to exfil anything, you would probably exfil shadow, so you can actually get the hashes for the logins. But that also being said, you already have privilege escalation to root, so yeah, it seems odd to exfil that, but could be proof of concept. And then they could come back and exfil something more important later. But let's close the alert and see how we went. So I'm going to say true positive. Just my logic is just saying that if you had root access, that is not a very valuable file to exfil. You'd be better off getting etc. shadow and then decoding the hashes and then getting other logins. But again, you've already got root, so yeah. All right, brute force. Everything correct. So that's fantastic. Just a quick summary, like I like to do, summarize the alert. We selected on the playbook true positive, yes. Should it be isolated? We said yes. Device scope, there was no other IOC seen on the network. Reputation check. Reputation check was, I get confused between these two questions. IOC analysis. Well, reputation check was it was malicious, and IOC analysis was, did we have any IOCs? I think it's that question. And we said we did. Determine the type of defensive evasion techniques, and we went with obfuscation. And determine the OS type, we went with Linux. Okay, so that's this alert. It was fairly straightforward. We didn't even really need the endpoint. It was more just to determine what the data was that they exfilled. So that was the encoded. And then after my brain turned back on, we realized that we could just decode it. And we saw that it was etc password. So, all right, not a bad alert. I'll see you on day 116. From now on out, as I said, it's going to be IR alerts, so they're all going to be quite long. But I guess it's the best way to learn is to keep increasing the difficulty. I'm also going to get things wrong. I'm only about halfway through the IR pathway. So thanks for watching. Also a shout out if anyone's watched all the way to the end here. Blue Team Labs have just reset their leaderboards, and there's now 15 free labs that you can do. Anyone's able to log in and do them now, and so you don't need to subscribe to premium or anything like that now to get access. There's 15 fantastic labs over there, some even very easy ones through to epic. Definitely recommend going and taking a look at them. All right, thanks for watching. See you on day 116. Peace out.